Hello everybody out there in YouTube land. This is Clyde Ford from PT3D, once again bringing you another video, hopefully slightly better quality than the previous two, well three if you count the live stream that I did of my printer actually doing something. Today I want to talk about the Alunar Prusa i3 Chinese knockoff from Alunar. There's several good questions and answers that are going to be answered on Amazon's website themselves from many users that have actually purchased this unit. So let's get started. This is the Alunar Prusa, as you've seen from the previous information available for it. It is a machine that has worked well for me for several months now, and for the price, I think I paid $289 several months ago when they were having a deal on it, and I have been running it since. This printer was a DIY kit, as it showed in the description, and I'm trying to be as neutral about this printer as possible. Initially, when I got this printer, of course it came in the box. I would have done an unboxing for this, but I didn't have the camera for it at the time. It was very neatly packaged. Everything was labeled accordingly. The only issues I had were that some of the screws were missing to this printer. Not a problem. I went to our local Home Depot supply and I was able to fix those problems. Some of the other issues I had were the 3D printed parts that they have on here. There's a screw here that's supposed to be sitting here holding the stepper motor on. They don't line up properly on this bracket. I probably could have reprinted that bracket by now, but I just really haven't felt the need. Some of the other components are the end stops. The Z-axis end stop is adjustable, which is sort of a pain in the butt because it's held on by two screws and it moves up and down. I think if I was going to design this, I probably would have put like a thumb screw or something, or so it would go up and down in a controlled fashion. That way you could make the major adjustments you need for your build plate from here. The screws for the bed leveling, it's pretty standard. They have the spring tension on them, the little wing nuts to hold them tight. Layering, a lot of people talk about Z-banding. I definitely have some of that weird stuff going on. This printer has been running for many months. Let's see if I can find it. Right now, I've got 44 days, 3 hours and 13 minutes on this, and I've run over 5,000 meters of filament through this printer, and it's done a really good job. I can't really complain too much about it. It would have been nice if some of these laser cut parts had been a little bit better. There's a lot of racking that goes on in this printer. It wiggles when it's really going at a high speed. I'm printing it at about 50 millimeters per second right now. Within the first 2 months, the power supply that was on here did blow. I was getting a very inadequate voltage to the printer. I checked my connections, everything looked good, and I didn't have any problems with that. But the stock power supply was barely powering up the display, so it was very faded. I did pick up another power supply, which I can include in the link below this video. The initial one that I had in this was 110 volt, 50, 60 hertz, whatever, depending, because it's also 220 volt as well. It's got a switch built into the side, if you can see that. The overall performance wasn't too bad. It has a max output of 250 watts at 20 amps, 12 volt. Again, it lasted for probably about a month or so before it quit, and I replaced it with a 300 watt power supply over here. When I initially had installed this power supply, the holes did not line up with the power supply holes, so it's kind of, you can see that it's not flush against the frame. Yeah, this is an ANET board, V1.0. I like it because it does have the SD card, so I don't have to actually slave this to my computer when I print. It does have the USB option, so I can do that. I have been told that there are certain things that you need to do for that. And looks like when I moved my printer, I ended up getting a layer shift on my print here. However, by and large, this printer, for the price, as a DIY, has done very well for me. I've had some major catastrophic failures with this thing. This whole section of the hot end and stepper actually pulled itself off of the frame bracket, and it is a hot end for a reason. And what happened is it ended up melting some of the belts that I had down here. Thankfully, it didn't catch anything on fire. But overall, as long as you're careful with it and you keep an eye on it, I mean, I have a lot of tape on this because I've had to patch things that broke over time. I've replaced the hot end a couple times. The fans have stopped working periodically, so the prints aren't exactly the highest of quality at this point. One of these days, I've just been debating, I'm going to replace this printer anyway, so I don't really want to put any more effort into keeping it going. I'd like to see what it'll do without it. So for the moment, it's still printing. So I can't complain about that. And anyway, so if you're planning on getting a printer, the first thing I would recommend, if you get this one, is putting in a switch. I also have an uninterrupted power supply underneath my workbench. I also have my assistant trying to get into the video here, my cat. Anyway, the switch was very necessary. I was seeing a lot of arcing because on this machine it's either plugged in or it's unplugged for power. So I just basically took a regular household switch, and ever since then I haven't had any issues. I believe that is what caused the power supply to blow initially. So, but otherwise, I mean, I would give this printer, a thumbs up in terms of, the average user with a little bit of technical knowledge and aptitude for using this printer on a day in, day out basis for personal stuff. I've used this for some business stuff that didn't require really fine resolutions. This printer is capable of doing fairly good resolution. I've run it at about 0.12, I think is the lowest or the highest resolution I've gone. The print I'm doing now is at about 0.2. Most of the prints I do are 20% or less infill, and it holds pretty well as long as you get the temperature right for the filament. I'm running the Tech Orbits filament in this right now at about 208 degrees Celsius, which seems to be a pretty good temperature for it. Anything else? It has a very significant build volume to even some of the other stuff. I know a lot of people like to use the monoprice printers. I don't know much about those. But this thing has got a 220 by 220 by 230 millimeter build volume, which is actually really cool. It's allowed me to do a lot of things that I don't think some of the smaller printers would be able to do without doing a lot of gluing. But other than that, I don't dislike this printer. It's done a really good job for me. The support was a little lacking. I didn't really get any return feedback from the supplier initially when I had asked for some of the screws and components that had failed over time, especially like the cooler fan for the nozzle. They provided a 3D printed director for the airflow. It's about this big, and it stopped holding in place, so I'd have to print another one if I wanted to reuse it. Otherwise, the Alunar printer, I'd give it like a 3-star in terms of, overall. It's definitely a workhorse. I mean, it's still running. I don't know how. I mean, melted one of the common wires in the back there for the heated build plate, so that doesn't work anymore. Again, I can fix a lot of this stuff. I'm just not overly interested in fixing this until after I get another printer to do the work for me. Well, I hope you found the review that I did on the Alunar i3 Prusa to be somewhat helpful. Again, I'm still new to this video stuff, and I'm trying to do my very best to give you information that is helpful to you, so you can either make the mistakes that I've already made or not make the mistakes that I've already made. Either way, I hope you found this information useful, and I look forward to seeing you again.